Today on the Topic Show, Candace Owens leaving the Daily Wire tweet goes viral to say the least. Trump's net worth skyrockets to $6.4 billion thanks to Truth Social. Planet Fitness handbook leaks show that they force staff to respect pronouns and as well as bathroom choices. Vivek on the Colosseum construction versus New York City permits gets roasted on X Twitter. California layoffs mount as the fast food minimum wage kicks in a few days. Lucid gets an additional $1 billion of investment from the Saudi government, and Fisker to be delisted from the New York Stock Exchange. All of that and much more on The Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have California layoffs mount as the minimum wage kicks into effect April 1st. That is actually not a joke, although physically speaking and for small businesses, it's a cruel joke. The new minimum wage law in California will now be $20 per hour for fast food workers. Now, this is perhaps, if you think politicians are good or they're doing the right thing, true, I'm not sure if maybe you're inebriated by drinking Bud Light, but that aside, my wise man once said, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And minimum wage, I think, is one of those things because it is quite literally the government, from my perspective, saying, well, if you don't have this skill set, you don't deserve to work. We're not going to allow you to work. You have to be now reliant on the government. Which, again, climbing the corporate ladder is the American dream. You start off low, you climb the corporate ladder, and you advance your career. If you get rid of the bottom rings of the ladder, you cannot start that whole journey. And again, if you don't have the skill set to be productive enough to actually have, in this case, if they have to pay you $20 per hour, that means you need to be $30 to $40 an hour in terms of productivity. Because again, the corporation has to pay all the business, you have not only just the taxes, but also have, in many cases, you have health insurance, you have the local, if you're like a franchise, you have to deal with everything from heating, cooling, internet, to the lease agreement for the physical site. The expenses get pretty overwhelming pretty quick, especially for small businesses. Now, this was originally written by Bobby Armstrong over on LinkedIn News, which is a hilarious place because it's mostly, I would say, left-leaning in terms of most content on LinkedIn. There are a couple of contrarian statements, splattered throughout the comments section. But when you look at every time they're trying to, especially the LinkedIn writers, when they have to, anytime there's a topic that's somewhat political, I have not seen a single right-leaning article or coverage on LinkedIn thus far. Now, again, this is from Bobby Armstrong, and they say that California fast food workers, or operators rather, are cutting costs ahead of the April 1st minimum wage hike that applies to employees of large chains. It says Pizza Hut and Round Table Pizza, to name two, are laying off 1,280 drivers this year, according to notices filed in the state. Jobs aren't the only things to be cut. Hours and menu items are also being reduced. In order of 18 McDonald's locations is saying that he's, quote, leaving no stones unturned. One industry news site say 500,000 workers are due to receive a raise from $16 to $20 per hour or hourly, which, again, that's an astronomical increase to the cost of goods sold. And fast food is in this terrible position partially because the government caused inflation left and the right with their myriad of ineptitudes. But fast food, the whole purpose and the benefit used to be is fast, cheap, and convenient. Perhaps one or two of those are redundant, but nevertheless, we've seen, thanks to, in part, inflation and also the cost of goods sold in terms of actual human labor involved, it's now prohibitively expensive to get any fast food. It's ridiculously overpriced. Truth be told, I don't think I've actually bought fast food since middle school, in terms of my anecdotal experience. But these companies are going to be closing down because, again, there's only so many levers you can pull. And I can't but think, and they're going to struggle. And there will be a price point in which consumers will no longer pay, what is this, Pizza Hut? They're not going to pay $50, $100 for a pizza. At a certain point, fiscal common sense kicks in and you'll just make your own food at home. Or if you're like me, you've been doing that for decades. So it'll be interesting to see, half the comments are people saying, oh, this is going to be great for the workers, increasing the minimum wage by 25%. What a great thing. Which on its surface, sure, but if you look at the ripple effect, the long-term effect it's going to have not only on the business, but also for the consumers, it's not great. And again, I always like to promulgate, or I like to tell people, please give me an example of when increasing the minimum wage actually led to increase in jobs. It has not. Quite the antithesis. It actually decreases the number of jobs for the aforementioned reasons I just noted. So let me know, what's your price point that you would no longer eat fast food? Is it $10 for a meal, $20 for a meal, $30 for a meal? I mean, one of my friends took his family to, what was it, Five Guys, and he was telling me the bill for his family is husband, wife, and son, and they said the bill was like $78. Just for you can argue maybe Five Guys is a little bit higher quality than fast food, but it's still in the same ballpark. And of course, they also have to pay for the tip, or you don't have to. In many cases, they ask for a tip, and then of course, depending on what state you live in, there's an additional Texas is an 8.25% sales tax on top of that. At what point does it just become unrealistic to eat out? So let me know, what do you think is going to be, what is your personal price point where you refuse to buy fast food? And then what are your alternatives? Are you going somewhere else? Are you just eating at home? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news, you have Lucid getting an additional $1 billion investment from the Saudi government. Now this comes to us thanks to electrek.co, which A+ for marketing, you know exactly what this website is all about, which is electric vehicles. And Lucid, they've had many issues for quite some time. They sell a premium, or what they call a premium electric vehicle, and apparently they're going to come out with a SUV soon. Hooray! And let's just pull up their stock really quick to see, how's that looking. Spoiler alert, last time we checked, it was not that great. Not as bad as something falling terribly like GameStop a couple of years ago. But if we just pull up Lucid Motors, what's it going for? And it's not as bad as Fisker. No, granted, few companies are worse than them. Now going to Lucid Motors stock. Jeez Louise. So for less than the price of coffee or a fast food hamburger, you can get a share of Lucid stock. Not recommended. I don't give financial advice. And they don't even pay dividends, so they didn't give you an incentive to keep the stock. Now, nevertheless, the current stock price per share is $2.82, which means it's cheaper to buy a single cup of coffee at Starbucks or Black Rifle Coffee. No, take that. Like Willy Wonka said. Stop, reverse that. It's cheaper to buy one share of stock than actually buy a cup of coffee. And again, the saving grace for Lucid is, well, they do have a moderate niche market. One of the Lucid Air Sapphire Banana Falcon, where they call their top trim line, is $250,000 for an electric sedan. Which, again, I'm not sure who's in charge of the marketing department or the design, but they all look the same in terms of they have one that starts at like $95,000. Maybe they reduced it a little bit, but again, it's kind of one of the demise of the Chevy SS back in the day. Great vehicle, but it looks so similar to the Chevy Impala and Malibu. No one really knew it existed. They just thought it blended in. And if I'm spending $250,000, it's sure as hell not going to be on first of all, it's going to have 3 pedals, like every car should have by default. But second of all, it's not going to be an EV sedan that's basically disposable, as all electric vehicles are for now. Always have to caveat that because technology moves quickly. There very well may be some magical technology that allows these vehicles to be reliable for the long term. Although, even if that is the case, you're still locked into a single manufacturer to actually work in your vehicle, which is not good for independent, repair shops and mom and pop shops, as well as consumer choice. But I moderately digress. Again, so it's $2.82 per share. Now, I would say the 5-day trend actually increased by 4.26%. I suspect partially because of the news of them getting $1 billion. Now, 1 month, though, it's not great. 1 month is down 10.63%. In the past 6 months, it's down almost 50%. It's down 46.99%. Year to date, down 30%. In the past year, 12 months, it's down 65.42%. Past 5 years, it's down 71.49%, which is terrible to say the least. Now, the silver lining with Lucid, again, not giving you financial advice, is that Saudi Arabia loves them. They're the largest investor of the company. In fact, I'll double check this article. I'm pretty sure they have over 51% of the stock. And if you look at the Saudi Arabian government and what they want to do from a business perspective, they increasingly are attempting to move away from the traditional oil products that have helped their country become so astronomically prosperous. That's why they're luring tech companies to set up offices there. And in some regions in the Middle East actually is a point of business, or not a constraint of business, as a term or condition to do business in the area, you must have a local headquarters there. Which, again, that is going to drive more in IT investment, and they'll have to hire some local folks. They'll increase their economic diversity. They want to be more of a tech place than an oil place, because I suspect, hundreds of years from now, the oil will eventually be gone or be prohibitively expensive to actually access. So that's one of the reasons they have a big push to go more technology focused. You see the same thing in Dubai. Now, this is, again, thanks to Peter Johnson over at Electrek.com. And they say, quote, Lucid gets another $1 billion investment as it prepares to launch Gravity electric SUV, which it'll be interesting. Again, that's a very competitive market. You already have Tesla owning well over 50% of EV sales. They have they have pretty much the best engineering resources on the planet, and they already have their factories that are a marvel of engineering and productivity perspective. Now, specifically, it looks like Lucid got another $1 billion investment from the Saudi Public Investment Fund, also known as PIF, affiliate AR Third Investment Co. The new funding will help support the launch of Lucid's first electric SUV, the Gravity, later this year. Now, Lucid CEO Peter Rawlinson said, quote, "We are extremely pleased to receive this strong continued support from the PIF as we work to solidify our place at the world's leading EV technology company," unquote. Now, it looks like Saudi Arabia's PIF already owns more than 60% stake in Lucid. Since 2018, PIF has invested around $5.4 billion in the EV maker, which, again, for them is basically nothing when you look at the total market cap and the total value that that country has. Now, it looks like Lucid expects to build around 9,000 vehicles this year, only slightly increasing from 8,420 EVs produced in 2023, which, if they hit those sales numbers, I would actually be pretty impressed given the economic uncertainty for 2024. Most people and businesses are decreasing their spend, especially when it comes to frivolous things like luxury items, which Lucid is the pinnacle of a luxury item you do not need. Again, they start, what was it? Is it $85,000 or $95,000 all the way up to $250,000 for an electric sedan? No one needs that. So if they can actually increase their unit production during this year, I would be pretty darn impressed. They've also increased their global production capabilities. They, of course, may manufacture them predominantly in the United States. But again, Saudi Arabia, being a big investor, they actually just set up a factory there. Was it Q3 2023, I believe, where it is kind of funny in terms of logistics and manufacturing perspective. But in the short term, they're actually assembling them, disassembling them in the United States, shipping them as parts to Saudi Arabia, and then assembling them there. But they are building out a whole factory, and then long term, the suspicion, or many people suspect, that it'll be actually manufactured in Saudi Arabia. So again, their stock is struggling to say the least, but they keep getting all this investments from Saudi Arabia, and I don't want to say they basically have no limit of money, but they have a lot of money to throw around. So perhaps that's a little reassurance for the people working at Lucid. But again, the electric SUV market is extremely competitive. You look at the trends of automotive adoption rates in the United States, the largest growing category is hybrids, not electric vehicles. So there's increase in EV sales, but the adoption rate is decreasing. So it'll be interesting. Would you ever buy a Lucid, a Lucid Gravity? Which, I'll at least give them a modicum of credit. From a marketing perspective, they did choose a funny, interesting name, as opposed to the cliche just naming them after simple nomenclature, letters and numbers, which, to me, is kind of boring, but I understand that perhaps is to build a loyalty to the brand versus the model number of the vehicle. So at least they chose a somewhat interesting name for their vehicles. They have the Air, which is their little sedan. They have Gravity being the SUV. I thought they were going to stick with elements. They could do earth, wind, water, fire, but I partially digress. Let me know, would you ever buy a Lucid SUV? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the culture part of the podcast, you have Candace Owens' tweet saying, "I'm free," going viral, to say the least, on X Twitter. Now, this comes earlier this week. Candace and the Daily Wire parted ways, and she was perhaps their most, I would say, one of their loudest ambassadors or podcasters. She is very, it's a nice way of saying this, bombastic, which is extremely entertaining. She is one of the most successful podcasters, bar none. She does not back down from a fight, as the youth might say, or my grandpa would probably say something like that, actually, now that I think about it. But she is very opinionated, which, again, is great from a media perspective. She has a unique voice, and she doesn't stutter like me half of the time, so it's much more interesting. But nevertheless, if you click the subscribe button, it may very well may assist with my speaking ineptitudes. I have a theory, not a doctor or scientist by any means, but the more subscribers I've gained, the better I've been speaking. Some might argue it's just a modicum of improvement, just a little bit, but if you watch the first couple episodes, I spoke a lot faster, believe it or not. I stumbled over my words even more and mispronounced even more words. But more subscribers, the less I've messed up. So if you can click that button, or if you already did, I especially appreciate you taking the time to tune in again. Tell your friends and share it. I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going back to my attempting to speak about Candace Owens, she was perhaps one of the most popular, well-known personalities or podcasters from the Daily Wire, and she butted heads with Ben Shapiro, who's the co-founder of the Daily Wire, and he's another media personality or podcaster at the company. And they had a lot of contrarian statements and beliefs, and they're kind of butting heads for quite some time. So it's not too surprising that they chose to part ways. Now, Candace said this on her social media, and this is one of her most popular tweets. And she said, literally, quote, "The rumors are true. I'm finally free. If you'd like to support my work, you can head to CandaceOwens.com, where you can be directed to my locals page, or you can give a gift at GoCandace.com. There will be many announcements in the weeks to come. American flag cross sign," unquote. And I can't help but think, I wonder if she didn't see this coming, because I say this because, again, she has the locals, which I think is not glorified GoFundMe, but it's not her own media entity. And if she knew this was coming, I can't help but think she would probably have already built out either a contract with a competing media company like Patrick Bet-David or PPD, or maybe even, what is it, Tim Pool or Timcast IRL, or even something like Tucker Carlson. And I can't suspect she's a very independent voice, but I think if you actually build out your own infrastructure, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of money, you need a lot of resources. So I think she will most likely join another media entity. But the fact that she didn't already have that from the get-go, or she didn't immediately just start a new contract, or she didn't immediately have a page like, hey, click here because I just joined this company, that makes me kind of suspect that she didn't see this coming, even though, again, based on even what we've seen publicly, probably could have seen it coming. And again, this went pretty viral. Got 7.6 million views and 121,000 likes, which is the most likes I think we've seen on the show in terms of looking at an individual tweet. That is astronomically, trying to think, I think 76,000 was the last number of likes where we saw a very viral statement or even a comment on X Twitter. So it's one of the most liked posts we've seen of the year. And spoiler, I think, given her audience, a lot of people will follow her, they'll probably be overwhelming support of her, but hopefully they'll have a couple contrarian statements just to make life a little more interesting. Now, one of the first comments comes from Ultra Duper MAGA, MLK parody, and it's a picture of MLK wearing the MAGA hat. And he said, quote, "So you got fired for not kissing the ring and calling a spade a spade. Ben Shapiro has put himself out on an island. I gained a lot of respect for you, Candace. We got your back. Thumbs up emoji, American flag emoji." Unquote, getting 92 likes. You also have Red Wave Press saying, quote, "I could see Owens teaming up with Tucker Carlson on his new network," unquote, getting 1.8 thousand likes. You have The Art of Purpose saying, quote, "Elon should offer you a show on X. You are 10,000 times the talent of Don Lemon," unquote, getting 8.5 thousand likes. Now, fact check, he's probably more like 100,000 or 200,000 times more, having more talent than Don Lemon. Now, that being said, Don Lemon is as entertaining as a lemon when you go to the grocery store. It just sits there and doesn't do much, and it's mostly sour. Pun, obviously, intended. He also lasted like one day on X Twitter before Elon fired him for his ineptitudes, but I partially digress. You also have Morgan Ariel saying, quote, "Congrats to you. God will continue to elevate you and stand when you stand for him. There are no limits to what he may do for you. You're in my prayers." Proverbs 28:1, quote, "The wicked flee where no man pursueth, but the righteous are bold as a lion," unquote. That got 3,000 likes. So thus far, overwhelming 100% ratio of everyone agreeing with her, supporting her. You have George Galloway saying, quote, "Good luck, ma'am," unquote, getting 2.7 thousand likes. Norm Cruz saying, quote, "Good luck on leaving the Daily Zionist, Candace," unquote, getting 6,000 likes. Michael Ray Curry said, quote, "Congrats, the ADL is about to take a massive L," unquote, getting 1.6 thousand likes. Noble said, quote, "The Daily Wire just showed us that free speech stops at Jews in Israel. The notice is about to go through the roof." 100%, unquote. 6.1 thousand likes. Uncorrupted Men saying, quote, "I stand with Candace," hashtag, also F the Daily Weird, unquote, which is a parody of what the Daily is called, the Daily Wired, or the Daily Wire. not the Daily Weird. Nevertheless, that did get 2.3 thousand likes. You also have Malcolm Flex say, quote, here we go. She's going on her Tucker arc, unquote, getting 1.2 thousand likes. Sneeko simply said, call Ben Shapiro the word, unquote, getting 5.1 thousand likes. Let's see here. Classics Griope saying, quote, not surprised that the Daily Wire stood with the butt plug unholy rabbi over you. Their controlled opposition, unquote, getting 1.6 thousand likes. Let's see. Barry Stanton saying, quote, Jewish cancel culture is taking its last victim. We must all leave the Daily woke right now. The people stand with Candace, unquote, getting 1.7 thousand likes. Let's see here. The Impartial Truth said, quote, the Daily J couldn't handle the heat. There's a picture of Candace Owens dressed up as a flamethrower soldier getting 509 likes. Let's see here. JD Sharp says, you just moved up my presidential candidate list in 2028. I'm quoting 291 likes. Let's see. There has to be some contrarian statements. Dave Benner, nemesis of neocons, chimes in saying, quote, seems as if Ben Shapiro's feelings don't care about the facts. You'll do just fine. I'm quoting 255 likes. Let's see. Zeno says, quote, congratulations, Candace. Can't wait to see what the future holds. Looking forward to your next move, unquote. You have my support. Getting 426 likes. Let's see. Zaherka said, quote, now I can go harder, unquote. Getting 710 likes. Halan Nation said, quote, the truth shall set you free, unquote. Getting 400 likes. Let's see here. Gina Botiempo said, quote, congrats, excited to see what's next, unquote, getting 246 likes. Tony Bennett says, quote, Candace remains the undefeated America First warrior of Christ who can't be bullied, unquote, getting 634 likes. Let's see how many comments there are total. Probably a couple. Yeah, 13,000 comments. Not granted, I was about to say we don't have time to do that. I don't think that's impossible to cover all of that in 24 hours. Unless I spoke really, really fast. Which, if you've seen the show before, unfortunately, I do. But, yeah, joking aside, I mean, overwhelming positive responses for her. And it will be interesting to see where does she go at the end of the day. Does she launch her own independent media company instead of her own independent infrastructure? Does Rumble maybe offer her a deal where they'll take care of the infrastructure and back end logistics, and all she has to do is, do her show? Let me know, where do you think she would be the most successful, given her personality, her background, her passions, and her take on most topics? Do you think she would succeed at, just going to somewhere like Patrick Bet David or PBB Podcast? Or do you think maybe Timcast IRL, she might be maybe going to their show a little more? I mean, let me know. As always, I'll be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have Planet Fitness forcing staff to sign paperwork affirming gender identity pledge and saying pronouns and more. Now this comes to us thanks to Libs of TikTok, and she says, quote, Scoop, a source in Planet Fitness tells us he unexpectedly asked to sign a document last week, or he was unexpectedly asked to sign a document last week when he showed up to work one day. The document instructs employees to let people use any facility based on a person's self-reported gender identity. It also makes employees pledge to use trans people's preferred pronouns and apologize if they get it wrong. If anyone violates these rules, Planet Fitness can terminate their employment or revoke their gym membership. Why is Planet Fitness trying so hard to allow predators into women's spaces and appeal to mentally ill, confused men? Unquote. And to say it went viral is quite an understatement. It got 2 million views in the first 24 hours earlier this week and 33,000 likes. So not as many likes as Candace Owens, but still viral to say the least. Now there's also a screenshot of the instruction handbook or the documentation. And the documentation does actually say effective August 2023. So it's actually an old documentation. It's labeled the policy provisions continued. And the parts that are highlighted, I'll actually quote in word referred. Section 5 says subject to Section 3 above, and it says, quote, all members and team members may use Planet Fitness locker rooms, facilities, and programs based on their self-reported identity. These facilities include bathrooms, showers, and other facilities separated by sex, unquote. You also have Section 6 saying, quote, Planet Fitness team members and members should address transgender and non-binary members and other team members with preferred names, titles, pronouns, and other terms consistent with their self-reported gender identity. If a team member or member accidentally misgenders someone, please apologize, ask the member or team member for their preferred pronouns, and use those going forward. Section 7, quote, the resolution of any conflict or question arising under this policy is the sole discretion of Planet Fitness team members. Planet Fitness reserves the right to take appropriate action up and including termination of a person's membership or employment immediately for any violation of this policy or club rule, unquote. And again, that got 2 million views and 33,000 likes. Now, the first comment, and again, I think it's fascinating. We didn't really know about this until recently when they basically kicked grandma out of the gym. She looked like a nice old lady, and that grandma was just concerned there's a biological man shaving in the women's restroom locker room, and again, there's little girls in there too. Now, they revoked her membership for just all the grandma did, which I say grandma, I apologize, I don't remember her actual name, but she went to the front desk and she said, hey, I don't think this person should be here. There's children there. And she got her membership revoked for that concern. Now, one of the first comments comes from Elon Musk saying, quote, weird place getting, unquote, getting 17,000 likes. There's a TikTok said, quote, weird and unsafe. They made it clear where they stand, unquote, getting 9.1 thousand likes. Paul Zazupa says, quote, hey, Planet Fitness, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. You're letting men who have no proof of being anything but men go into women's bathrooms at your gyms and expose their junk to women and even children. Please note your answer might be used in a lawsuit, unquote, getting 5.7 thousand likes. Now, in terms of Planet Fitness actually having a response or doing anything on social media, they're not going to say anything. It's been almost a month, and if you go to their social media on Planet Fitness specific X Twitter profile, which they actually don't even pay for premium or the business account that most businesses do, which granted is a pretty penny, it's over $1,000 a month, but for Planet Fitness, I would suspect it'd be worth it. Now, interestingly enough, they are headquartered in New Hampshire, and the last post they have is from February 12th. And if you go to the comments, again, it's just a gal saying, me and my bestie show up at the gym to our workout on time. And it's a little video, and the comments are just all roasting them, as the youth might say. So they haven't commented anything for about a month, and I think they're going to have the Bud Light approach. So they're not going to say anything for quite some time, and then they'll slowly try to test the waters with a couple posts. They'll get ratioed immediately, but yeah, I think they're going to take the silent approach for a couple months, and then they'll slowly try to reach back out there. They have a year, realistically, I think, to fix the situation for the better or worse, whatever the policy wants to be going forward. But an overwhelming majority of sales for fitness facilities, they all come in January thanks to New Year's resolutions. They get sales throughout the year, but the majority is January. So if their PR and their team, if they're thinking about the sales, again, there are people canceling now, but that's their Super Bowl, so to say. So that's when they really need to decide what policies, procedures will attract the greatest numbers of users and prospective clients. I don't think this policy is going to generate the most income for the company, especially short term. Maybe long term, if you have this shifting cultural change in the United States, maybe, but you're talking decades, I believe. And you also have Gen Z, as the youth might say, they're quite based. So they're actually pushing against these types of cultural trends, which, again, I don't think long term this is a sustainable policy to have. You also have Planet of Memes, which A+ for marketing. I think they've been in the comment section for almost a year. This is the first time they actually responded with a meme. Now, they said, quote, because you're just another woke company, and it's the Planet Fitness logo with a thumb, instead of being a thumbs up, it is a thumbs down. Now, that did get 2.1 thousand likes. Now you have Libercat Media TM saying, quote, Planet Women is not safe for children. Cancel your memberships and work out at home with a friend or sign up at a local gym that isn't beholden to the shareholders like BlackRock, who's ultimately pushing this trash onto you. And they actually reposted a picture of a plaque from LA Fitness. And LA Fitness also has a plaque, and the placard says, quote, transgender individuals may use the locker room associated with gender which they identify as. They got 1.4 thousand likes. You also have Tess Eccles Brown, PhD, saying, quote, we must make the 95% conform to what the 5% want, unquote, progressiveness, unquote. That did get 1.1 thousand likes. Now, fascinatingly enough, I'm not sure if even 5% of American, this is a moderately political issue. 5% of Americans probably agree with Planet Fitness and LA Fitness in regards to that particular policy. Again, I don't think it's a sustainable business model to only have 5% of your sales if they truly lose a bunch of their sales because of this. Maybe where you live, they're the only option for a gym and you don't have the facilities or infrastructure to build out your own gym at home. So maybe, but on average, there's a pretty good amount of competition. I think when I think of trying to compare other options, you have Gold's Gym, which is technically headquartered in Texas, but they're owned by a European fitness holding company. You also have 24 Hour Fitness, which emerged successfully from bankruptcy after the lockdowns of the pandemic. So there's a couple options. Now going down, you have Mr. Bigglesworth's memes saying, quote, women in the 1950s and is a classy girl with books and a bikini. And then they say women in 2020s is Dylan Mulvaney with a bikini and bulge because it's a biological man. That got 983 likes. You also have Sergeant Maga saying, quote, continue to cancel memberships, go woke, go broke, getting 510 likes. Let's see. You have SLead23 saying, quote, even though Planet Fitness is financially publicly traded company, its largest shareholder is BlackRock. They own over 12 million shares, which is 13.66% of the company. They have 80 commercial gym locations. You know what to do. I'm getting 235 likes. You also have Pro Swing Trading, which A+, they actually have a little trading emoji in the profile name, which I didn't know you could have. And he said, quote, Planet Fitness has become a safe haven for sex offenders and pedos. I'm getting 420 likes. Let's see. Red Balloon Free for Work said, quote, forcing your employees to take part in woke nonsense under the threat of being fired doesn't sound like a best business plan, unquote. Hashtag Planet Fitness is a new Bud Light. Go woke, go broke, getting 744 likes, which actually, now that they bring up their stock price, can't help but wonder, what's that doing like this week? Is it increasing or is it attracting a lot of investors? I mean, probably not, but let's go in. Let's see here. Let's see. Speak of the devil, maybe we were wrong. Again, subject to change once this video is actually, rendered and uploaded. But it looks like this week the past 5-day trend is up 5.5%. Now the 1 month trend is still down 5.82%, currently trading for $58.92 per share. 52-week low is actually $44. 52-week high is $84.48. Now, they don't even pay dividends, so the dividends yield is zero. So it's a little unfortunate if you actually buy the stock and hold it. There's no incentive. But nevertheless, let's see here. See, his forum walked up. Simply Wall Street had an article. Price? Let's see. Maybe sending backlashes. Because again, it's almost the end of the... Oh, I was going to say it's days away from fiscal Q1 being over. So we may be able to see if there's how big of an impact it's had in terms of lost sales. That should be out, relatively shortly. Let's see. Get one or two more here. Valentin Gomez says, quote, let's get Planet Fitness delisted from the stock exchanges for not protecting women, unquote. Getting 1,000 likes, but I actually don't know if there's a legal way to delist a company. I mean, that happens if your company is inept, like Fisker, which, again, spoiler alert, they're being delisted because they could not maintain a minimum dollars per share, which you need as one of the contingencies of being on the New York Stock Exchange. So I don't know if there's a legal way to do that based on their actions. I would not suspect so. But it looks like overwhelming support for Libs of TikTok. And, I mean, again, there are many people who agree with Planet Fitness's policy. I mean, the business question at the end of the day is that sample size of people enough to sustain the business and grow the business? I mean, if I were a gambling man, I'd say probably not. I think they're going to lose a fair amount of their sales in 2024. And this policy has been in place for years. I don't think they're going to change their policy. They've had it for years. It's been a month of backlash on social media and people canceling their memberships. And if anything, they doubled down. So they're having, they have this document for employees to sign. And, although there's some cases where they're instructing employees to pretend like it's not real at certain locations, I can't but wonder if those are just outlier managers that are trying to hopefully stop the bleeding from their actual location where they may be losing memberships because of this. But let me know, would you feel safe in that gym and would you go to Planet Fitness with the current policy? Did you cancel your membership? And then, anecdotally speaking, do you know anyone who maybe canceled their membership because of the policy, or maybe they signed up because of this policy? As always, it'd be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part podcast, you have Trump's network skyrocketed to $6.4 billion thanks to Truth Social. Now, this comes with us thanks to the Daily Mail. Specifically, it's Geoff Earl, who is the writer of the article. And they note that, quote, Trump's net worth surges to $6.4 billion to make him one of the world's 500 richest person for the first time after he completed his social media company's lucrative merger, which is quite a bit to say the least. Now, this is thanks to the announcement of the Digital World acquisition. Shareholders voted on the special purpose acquisition company to merge with the Trump firm that owns his Truth Social platform. You know that after a jump in the stock price, Trump's net worth jumped by an astonishing $4 billion, which is quite a bit to say the least. Now, the question is he going to actually liquidate it and sell it, or if he wants to hold that stock for quite some time? Which, again, that's going to help because, again, he has a lot of bills coming up. It looks like they've actually decreased. So, New York, they actually say that they lowered it from $454 million, which, again, has never happened. Now it's just a measly $175 million for that appeal. For the appeal court, which, again, it's a lot of people are just they're seeing that as political persecution. Fascinatingly enough, I'm not seeing any other politicians really charged with this, although you did see other presidents or current presidents and former presidents get off scot-free when it comes to not handling documents properly, with the Department of Justice saying Biden is not fit to stand trial, so it doesn't make sense to actually put him on trial. That happened a couple weeks ago. Now, is astronomically impressive. I would never have thought that Truth Social would actually be worth this much because, again, starting a social media company is one of the most difficult things to do. That's why Elon bought X Twitter as opposed to starting his own. Pretty much every social media company that's tried has failed epically. It's one of the most difficult things to actually have people adopt a new technology or a new feature. It has to be infinitely better or unique than what you're currently using. Now, Trump did offer that because, again, he stopped putting on his content on X Twitter, so he doesn't tweet anymore, with the exception of his mugshot, but he puts his content on Truth Social. And, I mean, in my opinion, that's why people join the platform, is because he's a big draw. It's a big entertainment. People want to learn about what he's saying, stay informed. I mean, he was the big draw of why people are joining the platform. And I can't help but think, I still can't believe it's worth that much. Now, I'm not sure how they're going to really long-term monetize, make it a viable product in terms of ensuring that, it has recurring monthly revenue. Will they allow advertisers to actually, have targeted ads to people who are on the platform? It's going to be really interesting to see how that evolves, and truth be told, we might even have to sign up for it one of these days to kind of learn a little bit more. Now, let's see here. I can't but let's see. Let's go to the comments because there's a couple in here. Now, one of the first ones comes from ShadowFit, saying, quote, I'm baffled at how things work in the U.S. How can a company that makes $5 million annually but have a running cost of losses of 31 annually be worth $3.5 billion? If that isn't a massive crime committed, I want to know how. They got 107 likes but 41 downvotes because they don't know how stock works. I mean, a big value of the stock is public perception. What do you think it's going to be worth long term? It doesn't always have to be financially viable, especially in the short term. Some of the most successful companies we know about had losses for years. Probably most famously Amazon.com, which their losses were almost, I think it was over a decade, but they actually made their first profit. Same with Tesla, which achieved the impossible. They had losses for years, and they actually became a profitable EV company, and now the market leader. You have another comment from Run of the Mill saying, quote, Democrats are trying to bankrupt Trump and drive his voters away. What they have accomplished so far is not only increase his voter base, but increase his wealth to $6 billion. They pushed him into the Forbes 500, unquote. That got 901 likes, but 325 downvotes. Phoenix Ambrosia replied saying they don't need to try to do it. He's done it enough times to himself. I'm sure he doesn't need any help, unquote. Getting 100 upvotes, but 45 downvotes. Which, again, it seems like the plan has backfired. Well, in terms of public perception and support for Trump, every time there's an indictment, he just went up in the polls for the Republican nominee, and subsequently he did not win. So he is the forerunner for the Republican Party. And it is alienating some people in terms of, I know some people who viscerally don't like Trump because of the charges, But those people are also, I know them, again, this is anecdotal experience from, talking to friends and acquaintances. Those people already were not fans of Trump to begin with, and they vote Democrat anyway. So, I mean, there's going to be certain votes, no matter who's on the ballot, left and right. You'll have people who will vote for whoever's on the left and whoever's on the right just because they're locked in and they think the party's going to help them out someday. Which, statistically speaking, I'm pretty pessimistic on pretty much any party doing much to help the average American out. But nevertheless, there are those votes that are baked in, so to say. And it will be interesting. I mean, how long will it take for Truth Social to make a profit? What's the adoption rate going to be looking like? I mean, I've seen a lot. I mean, again, anecdotal experience. Facebook is doing a lot more ads on YouTube and Google, trying to increase their audience size, their sample size, well, the customer base, really, or I should say the product size, because you don't pay for Facebook. Therefore, you're not the customer, you're the product. That's why marketing companies or businesses will pay to advertise to you on Facebook. That's how you can use it for free. Well, not really free, you pay with your data, but I partially digress. Let me know, have you ever used Truth Social? Do you think that's going to become one of the most popular social media platforms? And if you haven't signed up, why haven't you? Or if you have, what do you like about it? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Vivek Roman Colosseum versus New York building permit tweet getting ratio and roasted, which is pretty rare to say the least. Vivek is, on average, pretty viral on social media, usually in a good way, but I would say, I mean, this is the second time in a row he's had a little trip-ups and shoot himself in the foot. Now, granted, he hasn't shot himself in the foot worse than Ron DeSantis. Very few people have. I mean, that was like shooting himself in the high-heeled boot with a .50 caliber. But I partially digress. Now, Vivek is actually in front of the Coliseum, and he has a little text before the video. He says, quote, "They built the Coliseum 2,000 years ago in about 8 years. Takes longer to build a building with a permit in much of New York City in modern day," unquote. Which, again, we'll also play the quick videos. Truth be told, his voice is better than mine, so we'll go ahead and play that really quick. And then, on top of all this, I mean, what he says is roasted in the comments, but, I mean, he's wearing a polo, which, as we all know, men should always suit up wherever they go in life. You always look your best. It just, I mean, a polo? I mean, there's a time and place for a polo. It's called, like, your first year of college. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and play his voice.
They built this Roman Colosseum back about 2,000 years ago in 8 years. It took longer to build a building with a building permit on the Upper West Side in the modern day.
And it's not even tucked in, his polo that is. But it is also a little bit of an apples to oranges comparison because, yes, the buildings are also a lot more complex in the United States. I mean, there's a whole myriad of infrastructure such as, electricity, internet, sewage, piping. Now, don't get me wrong. I think most cities are bureaucratic BS in terms of the amount of permits you need to get started and construct something. And New York is one of the most prohibited places to actually run a business. Completely understand that. There's a point to that. Now, we go to the comments. It went pretty viral. Not in a good way. It got 1 million views, but only 27,000 likes. So definitely not his greatest highlight or his greatest statement in terms of reception. Now, the first comment comes from Lucid, our favorite leftist. Well, don't really like him, but I appreciate contrarian statements and makes life a little bit more interesting when it's not just an echo chamber. So I do follow a couple of people who are politically far left as well as left and middle and just kind of get good sample sizes as well as people on the right. Now, Mr. Luke Zaleski says, quote, "The most insufferable country club bro take ever, LOL. Nice shirt emoji," unquote. I don't want to say the pot is calling the kettle black, but Luke is in fact it looks like he's wearing a V-neck, which there are very few time and places for a V-neck. I understand it might be in some man's wardrobe. I think it's most appropriately a women's wardrobe, but nevertheless, Luke Zaleski is wearing what looks like to be a V-neck in his profile picture. Now, that being said, 140 people did agree with Luke Zaleski. You also have Dr. B saying, quote, "Cute making fun of New York City on foreign soil. Maybe you ought to stay there and have a toga party with the lions in the Coliseum. That's kind of symbolic of what Trump is going to do for your life," unquote. Getting 163 likes, which actually would be a little more interesting if you did do a toga. I mean, of all the places to do a toga, I know it's usually reserved for cliche frat parties, but yeah, as a wise man once said, when in Rome, of all the times to wear it, I'm actually surprised there's not a yoga. There's not a little toga like souvenir rack right inside the Colosseum for a tourist. That has to be a thing. Let me know. Have you ever been to Rome and have you ever seen that? I feel like it kind of like you see the Statue of Liberty, little lighters and little statues when you go to Statue of Liberty, the souvenir shops in New York. I can't believe they probably have something like that for the togas. But I partially digress. You also have Rona Insa saying, quote, they had slaves on cooking 372 likes. You have Orwell's Ghost saying, quote, make slavery great again and cooking 112 likes. Chris Madiant saying, quote, get the government out of the way. I'm cooking 93 likes. So got let's see here. Couple agreeing with him. Data guy saying Romans didn't need permits. They had slaves and cooking 98 likes. Timothy Morgan saying, quote, slaves come in handy. I'm cooking 39 likes. Jason Hambrook, interesting. He says, quote, not only that, but concrete took up to a year to cure back then. I'm quoting 55 likes, which, yeah, I can't imagine being a structural engineer back in that Roman era. I mean, imagine it taking a year to truly cure concrete. Going down, you also have Scott X saying, quote, you're still complaining like Tucker Carlson, hashtag MAGA cult morons, threw up emoji, unquote, getting 34 likes. Angela van der Plume saying, quote, who built it, 60,000 Jewish slaves, with what money? The money they stole after destroying Judea, unquote, getting 35 likes. Let's see. Scrolling down. Henry, no wait, that's an advertisement. Which again, I got the blue checkmark. I thought I had the premium package. We apparently need the XY Banana Falcon package for X Twitter to not have ads. You have, let's see here, Jason Badman saying, quote, the joys of no regulation and permits, getting 2 likes. You have Murray Reese saying, quote, built by Romans 4,000 years ago, it's a beautiful Roman street. And then you have built by my city 2 weeks ago, and it's a street with a myriad of potholes. That got 6 likes, which I can't help but wonder if the structure in the United States is built so poorly just to guarantee future contracts. That's always been something I was wondering about. It's like there's always construction for the roads. Always. They always need work. And yet when you go to Germany with the Autobahn, I mean, that thing's been good for, what is it, more than half a century? Now, granted, they have a little maintenance too, but overall, the thing's darn near bulletproof, and it is tank-proof. Let's see here. Then you have Todd Lambert saying back to nobody, unquote, getting 4 likes. And a bunch of comments getting between 0 and 5 likes, kind of saying to the effect of probably a 50-50 split between people saying, permits are BS or too much bureaucracy, and a lot of people saying free labor. A lot of people asking, what are you doing? Are you still running for anything in terms of political, future? So, I mean, this is a rare instance where he was ratioed moderate. I mean, it seems to be a little more than 50% of the overall comments were negative against Vivek. And I can't but wonder, maybe just, what is it, like in golf or sports balls, you have a bad quarter or something like that. It'll be interesting to see how he's able to bounce back from these tweets, because, again, he's had like 2 unpopular ones in a row. But it'll be interesting to see what his future is as well. Let me know, does this change your perception of Vivek? Are you surprised, happy, sad, interested moderately with his take? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Fisker, and they're going to be delisted. Now, Fisker was, or technically is, a EV automotive company with a long history of attempting to make vehicles. With the founder, Fisker, I believe the first iteration of the company was it about 2007? They went bankrupt in 2008, which, again, a lot of companies did. Is one of the worst economic crises in my lifetime. And it looks like, let's see, filed for bankruptcy. So they fell dramatically in 2008, but went to bankrupt in 2013, even though the U.S. government gave them $192 million in loans from the U.S. Department of Energy, which I'm sure won't pay back. Now it looks like Fisker's latest venture was founded in 2016 and went to public through a merger with a blank check firm for a valuation of $2.9 billion, and they've been struggling ever since. Now it looks like they're unable to meet the closing conditions related to an attempt to raise $150 million, which some people thought they would actually secured in terms of short-term funding. They noted that they're having a lot of their bills coming up that are due. Their stock has dropped more than 90%. And what's their stock? It should be I mean, last week it was like 16 cents per share. So it's probably going to be about, oh, probably maybe a nickel. Ooh, I overshot it. As the time of this recording, now granted, by the time this video is rendered uploaded, it'll be different, but it's 3.3 cents per share, which is, yeah, there's no statistical way they're going to make it. The only question is, realistically, I think who's going to buy the remaining assets of the company? I mean, the market value is down to $49.9 million. I mean, their 52-week high was 44.9 cents. That is quite bad to say the least, with the 52-week low being, right as the time of this recording. So again, the New York Stock Exchange, one of the terms and conditions of being publicly traded on that stock exchange is you have to maintain a share price of over $1 per share. And you usually get slapped on the wrist 2 times. You have to give them a plan of action, how you're going to do it. You're going to, do a reverse stock split. I know Tuesday, that was back when Pure One Imports was publicly traded. That was how they were able to actually stay on the stock exchange a little bit longer. They've fallen over under $1, but then the reverse stock split? But they got to $12 per share, and they just decreased the number of shares that are out there. And again, there's very little that Fisker is actually doing. They have all the manufacturing, was it by Magna. So that's actually a company that actually assembles them and builds them in their own factory. And I mean, Fisker Ocean, they have that, which I feel bad when my friends actually bought one of those. That's a electric SUV, which there's a fair amount of competition, and it'll be interesting to see what's the long-term support of this in terms of consumer support and spare parts, software updates, or lack thereof, how that's going to work out. And I guess shouldn't be too surprised, because again, there's also not much. They have their own research design team, but they're not making the machine themselves. I wonder, is anyone going to swoop in and buy the remaining assets? I mean, what type of intellectual property is there from that perspective? I'm not too surprised. Unfortunately, this is the second time the company has gone bankrupt. Perhaps they're just eternally cursed when they gave Justin Bieber a vehicle and they wrapped it in a chrome wrap, which that was the Fisker Karma, which looked like an amazing sports car, some might say, but was just kind of an anemic EV. Especially at that time back then, they were even more slower than now and more comical. I mean, now, they're faster than a rocket. But nevertheless, unfortunately, made the wrong business moves, and being delisted from the New York Stock Exchange, it's it's going to happen any minute now. But at the end of the day, I can't help but suspect. I mean, they're probably going to be bought out by another traditional automotive company. They'll buy the remaining assets, whatever they might be. But unfortunately, at 3 cents per share, all the bad news, that's the issue with Fisker. They are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, I'm trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, leave me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.